Hello, and welcome to another episode of 2-Minute Emergency. I am your host, Dr. Leslie, board-certified emergency physician, best-selling author, international speaker, and professional photographer. And I am here today with another 2-Minute Emergency to help keep you safe, healthy, and out of the emergency department. So today is a difficult day in many senses. Today is International Drug Overdose Awareness Day. And why do we do this? Well, the whole purpose of this is to bring awareness to overdoses. And so it's to look back and remember those people that have been lost through overdoses, as well as to think about the epidemic that is sweeping the world and what we can do to help prevent overdoses in the future. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of facts like I usually do, and just wanted to let you know this is pretty staggering. In the US, overdoses increased last year, that's 2020, by 30%. 30% from 2019, so just in 1 year. And it is estimated that 93,331 deaths occurred just last year due to overdose. That comes down to approximately 255 individuals each day. And we're talking just in the United States. That's how scary this all is. So every single death is a tragedy, because these deaths can be avoided. So throughout this entire 2-minute emergency, I am actually going to put up a banner so that you can see, and this is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration number. So this is what you can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you need help or if you know someone needs help, they provide references for different services that may be available in your area, as well as deal with crisis situations. So I'm just going to leave this banner going the entire time, so you have a chance to jot it down if you need it. So overdoses are not bound by age, by sex, by race, by economic status. None of those things affect overdose. Now, they can all play a role, depending on what situations the individual is going through. But it crosses all of these levels. There are no boundaries. And when I say age, most of the time, obviously in children, I'm talking small children, these are accidental overdoses. When children, especially infants, toddlers, I shouldn't say infants, but toddlers, get a hold of adult medication. And they think it's candy, they're just curious, they put everything in their mouths, and so up with overdoses. In a different category, and we know how we can avoid that by keeping all medications out of the reach of children, putting them on higher shelves, places where they can't see them and definitely can't find them, especially when they go to visit family members that they're not used to being around. So family members often forget about things like that, but childhood safety is so important. But what is an overdose? So an overdose is any time you have a substance in the body that is more than your body's system can handle. So there are many things that are prescription medications, prescription painkillers, that when used properly, they're very effective and don't cause any problem. It's when we go in excess that causes the problem. So the way addiction occurs is you take I'm going to talk about opiates primarily, because that is the main thing that's affecting our population right now. And so you take the opiate, it hits as it's broken down, it goes and affects the limbic system, which is also thought of as a pleasure center of the brain. And that releases dopamine. Dopamine causes you to have that state of euphoria. And at the same time, it has its own feedback mechanism. So once it starts being produced, your body's like, oh, I like this feeling. I want to feel more. And so it has its own little loop, and your body wants more and more and craves more and more. Now, at the same time, how addiction plays a role is that that also affects the frontal cortex of your brain, which is what we call, it's used for executive decision making. And as it affects that part of the brain, it basically decreases the connections. And so your sense of judgment, making good judgment, becomes impaired. Your sense of rational thinking becomes impaired. And so the craving for the drug takes over. And I know that's a simplistic way of looking at it, but that is one way of looking at addiction. So what happens in the case of opiates specifically? So opiates slow the body down. Everything is downregulated. So we're talking your breathing is downregulated, your heart rate is downregulated, and that's what leads to your death. So stimulants are the opposite. And when I think of opiates, think of the number one opiate, which is a synthetic opiate in this country, is fentanyl. And so that is what we hear about often. Another one that we think about is heroin is another. And another one would be your prescription medications. Think about hydrocodone, Percocet, Vicodin. All of those are all in the opiate category. Now, what can we use to combat those if you think that someone is overdosing? There is a medication called Naloxone, otherwise known as Narcan. So Naloxone is an injectable medication that reverses the effects of opiates. Narcan is a nasal spray, works the same way. And you can find them in many states without a prescription. Okay? So if you know someone, if you have a family member, a loved one, a friend who you know has a high probability of overdosing, why not carry it? You can save their life potentially. Another thing to know is that if you are in a situation where you see someone who is overdosed, in many states, there's the Good Samaritan law. You can call and get them help without any criminal consequences to you. So even if you yourself are using drugs, you are not going to be arrested or face any criminal punishment for calling to help save a friend. Okay? That's something important to know. Now, I will say there's a little caveat. If you are dealing in drugs and they know that you're dealing to that person and they overdose, that's a little bit different. But for you, even if you have drugs on you, you will not face criminal prosecution. And that's what I've read. I hope it's true in most places, but that is one thing that I found out in my research. So this is so important for us to think about this day so that we can be prepared if we see someone, that we know needs help. The number below, right here, 1-800-662-HELP is the number that you can call, and help is 4357. I know most of our phones don't have the letters on them anymore, but that's a number that you can always call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for yourself or for anyone that you know that you think needs help from their substance abuse issues. So once again, I am Dr. Leslie, board-certified emergency physician, best-selling author, international speaker, and professional photographer. And I bring you these 2-minute emergency segments to help keep you safe, healthy, and out of the emergency department. And especially on a day like today, where we're here discussing International Overdose Awareness Day. Thanks so much for joining, Charlotte. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take care, stay healthy. Until next time, bye-bye.